Hello everyone, welcome to our video on types of energy. Now we've talked about energy with some of the basics, but energy can show itself in multiple different forms. So we're going to start with kinetic energy. It's simply the energy of movement. You're walking, that's kinetic energy. You got a fan going, spinning, it's kinetic energy. Car driving, kinetic energy. Anything that is moving has kinetic energy. And kinetic energy is probably the one that we're most familiar with because it's super easy to see, right? Another type of energy is thermal energy, which is actually technically another type of kinetic energy, but we will get more into that later on. It's simply the energy of heat. So we have a picture of a fire or campfire there. You can definitely tell that there's heat coming off of that. There can be heat, when you are cooking, heating up your oven. There's thermal energy there. If you got a light bulb on too long, it can get hot. There's thermal energy there as well. Thermal energy can also be the absence of heat. Sometimes chemical reactions will happen and they get cold. So what's actually happening there is it's sucking the thermal energy out of its environment so it feels cold. We'll get a little bit more into that as well later on. Our last type of kinetic energy is radiant energy, the energy of light. This is probably the one that you actually see the most, but don't really think about, right? You can't really see anything if you don't have any radiant energy. Got any light bulbs on? It's giving off radiant energy. The sun is probably the biggest source of radiant energy that we have. And very often radiant and thermal energy do go hand in hand, but it's not always super obvious if something is very hot. Usually if something has light, it does produce some heat, but sometimes it's necessary to separate those two ideas into thermal and radiant as separate types of energy. All right, we're going to go into potential energy or stored energy. Now this one has a lot of different subcategories, which I'm going to go into next. So all the three pictures that you see there, roller coaster at the top of a hill, a rubber band that's about to be let go, or rockets or fireworks that have not been lit off yet. All of those have potential energy. That if there's, one little nudge to get the situation going, that there's going to be something happening. All right, chemical energy. This is the potential energy of chemical reactions. So you see the baking powder over there has chemical potential that when it is mixed with the vinegar has a reaction. And there's some kind of energy transfer that happens there. Once we get into chemistry, we will end endothermic and exothermic. We will get more into what happens when energy is either released or absorbed by the reaction, because sometimes it can be absorbed. But chemicals, before they are mixed, have the potential for a chemical reaction and potential for energy release or absorption. We have gravitational energy, the gravitational potential, or the potential energy of gravity. And this varies based on how far something is off of the ground. So a ball sitting on the ground has less or no potential energy compared to one that's being held above somebody's head. A plane has quite a lot of potential energy, gravitational energy. Somebody jumping off of, doing cliff diving has quite a lot of potential energy. And it is just basically proportional to how far something is off the ground. When you let go of that thing or it stops, you jump off that cliff, that ball comes back down, the plane lands, that's when the energy is released. And it turns into kinetic. Elastic energy. Now this is one that is pretty fun. I'm sure that we have been snapped by rubber bands before, right? Well, that moment that you're holding the rubber band apart and it's not released yet, but as soon as you do, it's going to snap, right? That's the potential energy of stretching. The bungee cord there, if they're at the very bottom of their jump, has a ton of potential elastic energy. As soon as they stop bouncing, they're going to snap right back up, and that's what brings you back up, is that elastic energy and the potential Believe it or not, actually, wind-up toys have potential elastic energy as well. We will, in class, kind of look at the inner workings of a wind-up toy, but they have basically something that stores the potential elastic energy as a coil on the inside, that once you release it, it snaps and it releases it. It's not quite as fast as snapping a rubber band, of course. It's more drawn out, and that's kind of just in the design of the toy, that it takes more than just a quick second to release the energy. But as soon as you let go after cranking the toy, it releases the energy, and there you are. Now we have kinetic. But as it's sitting in there and you haven't released it yet, that is the elastic energy. And it looks like that's it. We will be exploring these different types of energy throughout class, and hopefully we can use this to identify them a little bit easier. Have a good day.